This is Darren, and Darren goes around the world, and he has to talk to farmers. So here he has his cowboy hat on. He's in Brazil, and he's introducing Brazilian farmers, which is like one of the largest scales of farming in the world today. And he's showing them the plows, and he's trying to educate them on passive water harvesting techniques, key lining, installing dams and water harvesting systems on their farms to try to get them to be more, if you can do that, they get off of, say, chemical agriculture. They're getting off of irrigated, which is a lot of agriculture right now is pumping water from aquifers. So at the current rate of depletion of like the world's aquifer systems at our current agricultural production rates tied to statistics of us getting by 2050, 9.2 billion people in the world. In 300 years, we will deplete the world's aquifers that are supplying the food for the world. So we have time, but if we don't really start, we're gonna run out of time. And that might actually be more important than the concept of currently global warming, because that temperature change happens in about the same time. But yeah, we can adjust to temperature, adjust to no water. That's not easy. So we need to start recharging the aquifers, and we have to start changing the way that we do agriculture. It's too water intensive. So this is the people looking at that in a permaculture sense. So there's Darren with his equipment. As I said, he does experimental equipment. So he built like this machine. So he's developed machinery for direct seeding. So he's seeding, biofertilizing. So he has biofert added or compost teas, and he's cultivating the soil all in one pass. So he just uses the tractor one time, 1 year. He drives, that's it. It's non-inversive, and that's for the systems that he's trying to develop to utilize less fuel. Don't turn the soils, right? Build the soils. As I said, remember we said we farm the soil. Yeah, food's the outcome. So he's trying to work on develop of soil, and if he develops his soil, then the biomass that's produced will be higher. So that's what which is also cool. These things started with Broadscales, big pieces of equipment. It's really not practical for even small farms. Even Raktamachat's not big enough for some of the equipment that they use in Australia on broad scales. So it's interesting to see, but what do? Well, they've now made smaller equipment. So this is called the Wombat, which is like a smaller version of a keyline plow. So that on a small scale, like the tractor my father-in-law has, I could pull this plow to aerate, decompact our soils. And here we have really high clay. It's like concrete. So decompacting it to work on and get our teas in. So even if I make compost teas and bioferts, if I can't get it into the soil, right, it doesn't do any good. So this helps us to get it in. So we get air, just like when we flipped our compost. It's not really any different. If I flip the compost, it increases the production. If I can aerate my soils, it will increase the production. So the concept here is by reducing the farmer's input cost. So if we don't have to put as many inputs, we can reduce the input cost. Farmers have money to invest in invaluable infrastructure. So the more that we can get them, so if they can make that first step to passive water harvesting, they'll lower their input cost, and they'll have more money to invest in more harvesting. So sometimes you'll see these big landscapes, lots of ponds, lots of swales. They didn't do that all in one day. They started with one pond, maybe one swale. And they walked through time their way into having a, say, totally integrated landscape. So even with Raktamachat, I've been working now, it's 8 years on my water harvesting and swales, and we still I probably have at least 4 or 5 more years in order to complete the total landscape for the property we have. And at that point, I would have reduced our cost, where we'd be making a very good profit without the fossil fuel input for our farming activities. And if we so chose, we could then invest in expanding to other farms that the farmers are wanting to sell them because they don't make any money. Their farm is unproductive, high cost, and commoditized farming. So this is a question is, do you want to get bigger? Okay, I'm not sure I personally want to do that. But if people do want to do this, and people are going to feed the world, someone's going to feed the world. And currently, for a long, long time, we as people eat lots of grains. So our diets, whether they're vegan and vegetarian, is almost more so in that way. It's moving more to the commoditization, not less. So we need to, as permaculturalists, move into identifying that and not just saying, I don't like it. Actually, we can do it better, and we do it more profitable. So this is what you could say the future of agriculture. Going in and saying, I don't have to agree with you, but you're going to go out of business. Besides your stuff costs too much money, and it's all tied to fossil fuels, which the price is going to go up as we deplete them. People don't like your product either, so they're not really wanting to buy it. And my product's more sustainable. My products taste better. It's more nutritious. And so permaculture is more moving with the market. So what's the market doing? And I don't see the market getting more processed. So that they have two problems. The processing is being not accepted anymore, and they have a problem with fuel. The high input cost leads to very little margin. So more information on that, guys, can be found at Yeoman's Plow. That's where this concept came from, or keyline.com. Soil and Health, also I highly recommend, great books on agriculture. To be frank, guys, we never had what anyone would describe as chemical agriculture. That started in 1948. So that every farm in the entire world was organic prior to 1948, okay? They didn't have NPK. It was not invented. So what we are thinking about or talking about, I don't like chemicals in my food, that pesticides, herbicides, and insecticides tied with synthetic fertilizers really started at that time, around in the 1950s. So we haven't been doing it very long, and we for sure can go back. But if we want to see what they were doing at that time, what is the highest level of organic agriculture that we had historically, we go back to books that were written in the 1940s, right? They didn't have chemicals. This is what they did, right? And they were doing a good job. So it's sometimes nice to go back and see what were they doing prior to having these, say, cheats. I like to think about the steroids. So steroids is easy, you know. But organic agriculture, we can get big too, but we have to just put in a little bit more work. So permaculture.org and Permaculture Biz, that's Darren's website. And check out YouTube. Darren Dorothy's got lots of great YouTubes.